Hello and welcome to tonight's episode of Morning Hoops Basketball Podcast. I guess it's weird saying tonight's episode of Morning Hoops, but here we are.
That wasn't awkward at all.
Oh, we're
Tell
off
them who
to a
we
great
are.
start.
Let's go.
I'm Anthony Denu, and I'm joined by Kyle McKeown. You can find him on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA and me on Twitter at Anthony Denu.
Cool. What are we going to talk about tonight? We had 9 games on Monday, and then there's another 4 on Tuesday. Was there any big news to cover from the day? We didn't really have any huge injuries or anything, did we?
I can't think of any injuries. Anunoby left with the eye thing for a moment, but came back. And then the other big news I would say is Luka.
Yeah, second player in NBA history to record a 40-point triple-double. The only before the age of 20. The only other one to do it, LeBron. So yeah, pretty high. What's that called? Relationship? Or I'm not thinking of the right word.
Company?
Yes, company. Pretty good company. That's what they say.
Yeah. He's something special, man. I've only seen he just like from the eye test, he's as dominant as almost any offensive player I've seen in their prime in my lifetime. Like
you just said in his prime, and he's 20. So I don't even know if he's there yet. But I mean, he might end up averaging a triple double this year. So maybe already.
Yeah, he's just something special. When I just think of some of the people who just own the game on offense, like Kobe or Tracy McGrady, I mean, he's got some of those qualities, and it's so early in his career. So is he top 5 in your MVP? If you're voting today,
I think you have to look at Luka as that, just because they're actually winning. And they're running everything through him. He's doing it efficiently. He's getting to the line. He's hitting threes. He's distributing the ball. He's getting an absurd amount of rebounds. There's really, out of everything that he's doing, it's hard to try to discern and say like, oh, you're not going to consider him for the MVP. He's definitely in the MVP discussion right now.
Do you feel like certain people cancel each other out? Like there's 6 guys on 3 teams that might cancel each other out, like Houston with Westbrook and Harden, and then the 4 guys on the 2 LA teams. In MVP, do you think they'll cancel each other out if there's not an injury that holds any of them out for too long?
I mean, I don't think Westbrook's going to be in consideration just because Harden's going to be so much better than him, obviously. Better than him, especially if Harden actually follows through and finishes the season averaging 40 points per game, which is a possibility right now and is insane to even think about. But as far as Anthony Davis and LeBron James, I think there's going to be a constant conversation this season as one of them has a good stretch, the next one has a good stretch. Obviously, with LeBron right now, it's just fun to watch him play that primary point guard position, and he's averaging 11.2 assists right now for the season, which is beyond bonkers.
So is Karl Anthony Towns also in the conversation?
I mean, you can talk about Karl Anthony Towns as an MVP level talent and player, but until they win games and are in the if you're not in the playoffs this year, you're not. There's no way in heck you're going to be in that discussion, and I just don't think that I see the Timberwolves as a playoff team in the West yet.
All right. Should we do some reviews of the night?
Yeah, let's get into some of the box scores and talk about how everything went down.
All right. So first game of the night was Cavaliers and Knicks. You and I talked yesterday. I said that this was going to be a stinker. You said that maybe it wouldn't be, but it was fun to watch. It was the first game of the night. So I caught the first hour of this before the Bucks and Bulls tip. And sure enough, Fizdale starts the 3 starting power forwards, and he got it's just an awkward, clunky rotation. But I started to see a little bit of, or understand it a little bit, that once he gets Gibson and Morris out of there, he brings in Robinson and Knox. So it's kind of like the young guys get to play together and develop together, as opposed to with these guys who probably aren't part of or shouldn't be part of the future long term.
That's a very polite way of looking at the situation. I don't think there's any reason why Mitchell Robinson shouldn't be starting over Taj Gibson. Like even having to say that as being like something that's real, it hurt to come out of my throat. And I'm not joking. I almost got a frog in my throat trying to say that Taj Gibson was starting over Mitchell Robinson because it's just such an absurd notion for this Knicks team. Now, this Cleveland Cavaliers New York Knicks game that happened, when we were talking about it last night, I did think that it was going to be a game that would be close. But when Kevin Love got ruled out for his back, they said his back was like he was having back spasms, he was having soreness there, so they held him out. But this was also a back-to-back for the Cavaliers, so it's very possible that they just looked at the situation and said, yeah, we're going to make up this injury because of the knee thing that happened to Kevin Love in Sunday's game. We don't want to risk it. And also, I mean, you have to think that the Cavaliers are at least entertaining trading Kevin Love at some point this season, considering how much their team is pointed toward their youth. That's not to say that Kevin Love, that they don't maybe value Kevin Love and that they aren't considering keeping him long term, but if they can get something back for him and it opens up the possibility of continuing to build things around Sexton, Garland, and Kevin Porter Jr., then I think that we could see Kevin Love traded at some point. But the fact that Kevin Love did not play in this game definitely is why the Knicks were able to so easily kind of walk away with this win. We saw from the Cavaliers side with Love out, Kevin Porter Jr., rookie from USC, he started, got his first start and played big minutes, 31 with 6 of 11 from the floor, 3 of 6 from 3-point land, which is a big thing for him because he's not, one of the things coming into the league is that he can move with the ball. He can get to where he wants to on the floor, but he doesn't necessarily have a consistent jump shot. And that's something that we're still looking to see develop from him. And to kind of illustrate that, he went just 3 of 8 from the free throw line, struggling there, but 18 points overall, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. Pretty great first start for Kevin Porter, getting that opportunity with Love out, but it's not likely to stick.
Julius Randle was fun to watch with those 3 power forwards in the starting lineup. He was kind of running the show at point a little bit and ended up with 30 points. And it seemed like it should have been more the way he was firing it up in the first quarter, but ended up with 30 regardless and a plus 24. So he'll be okay with that.
Well, and Randle would have done better too if it wasn't a blowout and he would have gotten more minutes. Probably, I think he came out with like 6 minutes left in the game. But 3 of 5 from deep for Randle, and that 30 points was it was a season high, and it was the 14th time that he had scored 30 or more points in his NBA career.
I believe they said during the game that this is the most the Knicks had been up on any team all season long.
Well, if it was going to happen against anybody, it was going to be the Cavaliers.
Yes.
What do you think about the whole point guard situation with this team right now? They've been giving Frank Ntilikina the starts. He's been getting a lot of minutes, not necessarily doing too much with them other than really contributing in steals and playing decent defense with a little bit of assist. But what do you think they're going to do when Elfrid Payton's healthy? Does Payton come in and start right away? Does Dennis Smith Jr. get kicked out of the rotation? Does Frank Ntilikina go from starting to being out of the rotation entirely? Like, how do you see this all going down?
I don't know. I think they're going to have to experiment with playing 2 of the 3 at the same time. But Elfrid Payton to me is the most entertaining player to watch of the 3. So he's the guy that I hope wins it out. But you've kind of soured on him over the last few years?
Oh,
never really developed. He's kind of been the same player he's always been, right?
Look, it's one thing if you're Ben Simmons and you're a 6'10" point guard who can get into the paint and get your shot off whenever you want. And do it efficiently in that context, and also to be someone who can guard essentially 5 positions in Ben Simmons. But an Elfrid Payton, a point guard who doesn't shoot, I don't know, man. I don't want to deal with these kind of guys in the NBA. Plus, it's not like he's great at defense either. Especially for a team like the Knicks that should be focused on building for the future, trying to find a unique talent to step up and be something special for them. I don't know why I would have a ball dominant non-shooter like Elfrid Payton taking the ball out of other guys' hands who should be playmaking, like RJ Barrett, like Julius Randle. So if anything, the fact that they drafted RJ Barrett and then they signed Julius Randle, that to me says that the Knicks should have just went out and found a shooter to play at point guard. That's why on opening night, when they put Alonzo Trier in at point guard to start, I was like, that actually makes sense from Fizdale, because he already has ball handlers doing stuff. Plus, he already has a ball stopper in Marcus Morris in the game too, who's going to just get the ball, do his little mid-range shuffle, and then take a fadeaway kind of crap that he does. So, yeah, I guess I don't like the fit of those guys on these teams. And I honestly, I don't like Elfrid Payton's career arc. I don't see him ever being the starting point guard on a team that's actually winning and means anything. So from that perspective, why waste time on somebody like that? If I don't know, not my cup of tea.
All right, should we move on to the Pacers and Nets?
Yeah, Dean Wade from the Cavaliers made his NBA debut, rookie Dean Wade. So he'll likely be headed back to the G League though once Kevin Love is healthy. But yeah, let's move on to the next game. Another blowout. So that was fun. A fun way to start the night. The first 3 games actually complete blowouts.
Yeah, I didn't get to see in even a second of this blowout, so I was still watching Knicks and Cavs. But anything spectacular or specifically unspectacular from this one?
From the Pacers side of things, we still had some guys missing time. We had Malcolm Brogdon out. We had TJ McConnell out. We still have Jeremy Lamb out. So with those guys vacant, we saw Aaron Holiday get another start at point guard, put up a great line, career high 24 points, career high 13 assists, 6 rebounds. Like, geez, pal, 4 for 7 from 3-point land. Great game from Aaron Holiday. And unfortunately, though, when this team gets healthy, and I guess not unfortunately, it just shows their depth. When this Pacers team gets healthy, Aaron Holiday is probably just going to be playing a very more limited backup role, and it's possible that TJ McConnell might even be the backup point guard over Aaron Holiday, which could leave Aaron Holiday out of the rotation some nights later this season. But the Pacers put the beat down on the Brooklyn Nets, so we didn't really see most of the Pacers play the minutes they typically would. Domantas Sabonis, after recording a career high 17 rebounds against the Nets earlier this season, went up and he even did that better with 18 rebounds, new career high again against the Nets. So it's nice to see Sabonis playing through this right hip contusion that he got in the previous game. And he was questionable coming in, but obviously wasn't slowed down by it at all.
Yeah, and other fun notes, I guess, is Dougie McBuckets with plus 35 in 27 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but he only scored 7 points of his own, so that doesn't really do much for you if you're a fantasy basketball player. Goga Bitadze has been staying in the bench rotation, even with Miles Turner back in action. Looks like Jakar Sampson's going to be out of the rotation. But Bitadze is a guy who, even in limited minutes, it's fun to watch him just because he's a very skilled big man and someone who can go out there and get some blocks and do a lot of little things there. So Justin Holiday, he was getting a spot start in this game as well with some of the guys that we were talking about being out earlier, Jeremy Lamb and such. So he scored 20 points. This was the Pacers beating down the Nets. There's not much to talk about from the Nets side of things. Kyrie Irving was out with his shoulder impingement for a second straight game. Saw Spencer Dinwiddie get the spot start at point guard once again. These Nets are also missing another one of their starters in Karis LeVert, so that's going to slow them down quite a bit. It's just so bizarre that they get worked so hard. And I guess you wouldn't say it's bizarre, but after you got worked so hard by the Pacers or in their previous matchup, it's kind of curious that we didn't see Coach Kenny Atkinson switch up the game plan a little bit against the Pacers this time to try to handle better having Domantas Sabonis, a big man, kind of a tough guy down there. I don't know why the Nets didn't try to bring in somebody else at power forward other than just trying to wedge things around Taurean Prince, trying to defend Sabonis and any other options they have. I mean, it might have been a good idea to maybe bring Nick Claxton in, or you know what's sad is the Nets are so much leaned into playing the small ball, modern kind of basketball that their best option probably would have been to think about starting DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen together. And they probably should have done that. Maybe next time.
Bitatse.
He's a cool dude.
Anything
Anything else from this game? Not too much to see. No. Be completely honest, and probably not much that we can take away from it for going forward. So let's move on to the Charlotte Hornets versus the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors won 132-96. You already mentioned the fact that OG Anunoby got hit in the head, hit in his eye, left for a little bit, but was able to come back. Ended up finishing with 24 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals in 27 minutes, 10 of 13 from the floor, super efficient, 4 of 7 from three-point land. Awesome to see Anunoby being so prolific from three-point land, because that's the one thing holding this guy back. Like, I think Anunoby has all-star level talent due to his ability to impact the game on both sides of the court. So it's nice to see him stepping up a little bit more this year, really on both sides. I was going to say just on offense, but we've seen some wonderful steals and blocks numbers from Anunoby in a lot of games this season as well.
Coming into the season, to me, he was somebody I targeted in fantasy because it seemed like he was the main candidate to pick up all the slack left from Kawhi. So I thought he's had a solid season so far. Obviously, a couple rough issues over the last week with the eye, but a career high tonight, and he's only going to get better, man. Yeah, I like that you think that he has all-star level talent, because I think he is a darn good two-way player.
Oh yeah, he's as far as the modern NBA and having a great versatile wing defender, he's that guy. He's one of those guys that you can throw at a Kawhi, that you can throw at a LeBron, because he has the strength and the athleticism and the gumption that going back at it for a second try. A lot of guys can play defense and they get hit and then they don't keep trying. They don't stick with it. But Anunoby's one of those guys that sticks with it. So really big fan of his. Pascal Siakam had a pretty good night. Not a great one. 35 minutes, 20 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. I can't believe I just said not a great one, but that's from the perspective that Siakam's been really amazing this year. On the Hornets side of things, we saw PJ Washington get into severe foul trouble, 5 fouls, so he just played 17 minutes, but he should be better next game. Miles Bridges bounced back nicely. He played just 14 minutes in their previous game. People have been really frustrated with him in the fantasy world, but a pretty nice line from him in 28 minutes despite the blowout. 13 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block, 2 3-pointers. What's your feeling on Miles Bridges? Do you think he's going to be a consistent starting player in the NBA throughout his career?
I think he can be like the top defender off the bench. What do you think his ceiling is? His top ceiling is being like a poor man's Tony Allen?
I think some people are actually discounting him too much because he's tried to pick his spots well as a young player. And there's something to be said about that. You don't want someone to be too passive, like a jerk like Nicholas Batum, who only takes 4 shots in 25 minutes or 4 shots in 29 minutes like he did in the previous game. But because that's honestly, when you're shooting that few of shots in that many minutes, you're hurting your team. You're being selfish. And that may sound contradictory, but it's real. The ball has to move. You've got to have a rhythm. People, your teammates, when you have an open shot, you got to shoot, because your teammates, if they see you have an open shot, they're planning on you shooting most of the time. I mean, maybe if you play with Nick Batum, you just have to assume he's not going to shoot and go from there, but it's not a good way to play basketball. Gosh, I hate Nick Batum. I wonder if I seriously wonder if Nick Batum is only taking limited shots because he's just trying to get the Hornets to be like, yeah, go home, man. We're good. Like, we'll just pay you $25 million this year, and I think next year too. That's no problem. Oh, it's frustrating. Other things to mention from the Hornets game. Marvin Williams had a nice night, but that's because he was playing a little bit extra with PJ Washington in trouble. Devontae Graham continued to play well, even though his minutes were a little bit limited because of the blowout. Terry Rozier, ditto. I mean, it is what it is with the Hornets. You got to try to, with some of these teams that are just you plan on being lottery teams, you got to find the other reasons to be optimistic about what they're doing, or other ways to evaluate them, not to just say like, oh, they lost, so they suck. Like, it's great that we're seeing Devontae Graham from the Hornets step up into a big role, one that I don't think anybody really expected. It's surprising to see that they went so hard on pretending that Dwayne Bacon was better than he was, and it only took us less than a month into the season for Dwayne Bacon to pretty much be out of the rotation. He didn't play last game, even though he was healthy, and he only played 8 minutes in this game, which was a blowout. So it's a little bit disappointing on that end. What do you think?
Keep track of who's gonna perform well or not for the Hornets on a night in, night out basis. I mean, there's so many different wing guys that are extremely inconsistent, and then maybe the guy who's the most consistent is Batum, and like you said, he should be an offensive option or weapon, but only 4 shots.
You would think somebody in Batum's position as a veteran on a team like this, that he would look around and be like, this is my team. I'm getting all the shots. Y'all get in line behind me. But instead, he's like, nah, man, let the young guys play. I'm cool. I'm just going to go chill over here, have a bottle of wine. It's all good. Which is
maybe he's playing not to get hurt so he can get traded to a contender in February.
But he'd be more likely to get traded if he played well and showed that he can actually contribute. And that's the other thing that's so frustrating about him. A couple other notes from the Toronto Raptors side of things. Nick Nurse came out with a fun quote before the game where he essentially said Norman Powell's not consistent. And then Norman Powell came out after scoring 26 points in the last game. He comes out in this game and scores 17 with 6 assists, 2 3-pointers. So it's kind of fun to see coaches call certain players out for things, and then to see that unravel in a positive way in the game shortly thereafter. Chris Boucher, G League MVP from I think 2-time G League MVP. He had a double-double off the bench in just 18 minutes, 11 and 11 with a 3-pointer and a steal. Unfortunately for Boucher, and he's an older guy. He's like 28. A lot of people don't really know him well, so they think he's younger. But Boucher will likely be back out of the rotation, or even more of a limited role when Serge Ibaka eventually returns from injury. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson off the bench for the Raptors has been playing pretty well recently, and earning more and more of a role there. But with Anunoby getting healthy, and I just don't know if it's going to stick for Hollis-Jefferson. It's hard to imagine a player who doesn't shoot 3-pointers fitting into this Raptors system, but he's doing a pretty good job lately. He had 15 and 8 with 2 assists on Monday night. Terrence Davis, I can't believe I didn't mention him yet. He scored career-high 16 points in 21 minutes off the bench, 4 for 5 from three-point land, 7 assists. It's nice to see that rookie excelling off the bench. He's really been the sixth man for the Raptors. When they decided to start Fred VanVleet at shooting guard, they came into the starting the opening of the season without a clear like sixth man off their bench. I mean, Norman Powell's filled that role, but he's also, as Nick Nurse has said, been kind of inconsistent. And now that Lowry's out and Powell's in the starting lineup as an interim starter, we're definitely seeing Terrence Davis leaned more on as a six-man option for the Raptors. All right.
Any final notes before we want to move on?
I think that was good. Let's go on and talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and the Chicago Bulls. Did you watch this game tonight, brother?
I did watch this game.
So what do you got for us?
Obviously, I'm pretty pleased with the result. You getting 2 wins over a rival within a 4-day span.
So the Bucks won 115-101, right?
Yep, the Bucks got the victory. Giannis back at 33, 10, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block. But he did have 8 turnovers. I don't know for whatever it is. Throwing Archie Diacono on Giannis has created some weird times. Obviously, Giannis gets the win and is going to put up the numbers regardless. But
there's a lot of chatter on Twitter about Giannis getting some terrible calls in this game. Despite your fan bias, what do you think about that?
I think that he is refereed poorly compared to other superstars. Especially like to see an MVP, the reigning MVP, refereed the way that he is, it is a little bit surprising for today's NBA. it's pretty frustrating because teams can get away with a lot. Like he takes a punishment, and because he is so big and basically an unstoppable force. But that's kind of comes with the territory. Shaq had to deal with the same thing. Like he got everybody's best shot over and over every night, and that's what happens when you're the biggest dog.
Yep. Well, and it's also tough too because some teams doing smart things, or I said smart things, and then I was about to mention Marcus Smart, like the way Celtics defend Giannis, and sometimes other big men who are perimeter guys is they'll throw Marcus Smart on him. And we've seen Marcus Smart defend Kristaps Porzingis well. We've seen him defend Giannis Antetokounmpo well. Are you telling me that Archie Diacono actually got thrown on Giannis for some possessions in this game?
Oh yeah, this happened on Thursday night as well, I believe, for a few possessions.
And he was just heady enough of a defender to cause some
yeah,
commotion or cause
like
some
just trying to get him to be a Patrick Beverly kind of thing, but it wasn't. It's certainly not going to work out quite like that. But like what else is Boylan going to do with Otto Porter out? It's not like he has many options. Markkanen has been roughed up to the point where he doesn't even look like himself anymore. Anytime he faces Giannis, he only had, I think he's averaged 10 points in the 2 games that they played over the last few days. Go ahead.
No, I mean, if you're asking me, I would rather have a 6'7" Denzel Valentine out there trying to guard Giannis than a 6'3" Archie Diacono. But I also don't think that Ryan Archie Diacono, despite the fact that he had a good game, and I just, as I'll say probably every single time we get on here and talk about the Bulls, I don't understand why he's on this roster. They have too many point guards as it is, and it just confuses everything to have another ball handler out there with Chris Dunn, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Tomas Satoransky. Like, dude, why don't you start using Wendell Carter Jr. as one of your hub facilitators from out in the high post? Boylan doesn't. It blows my mind sometimes when certain coaches don't seem to know the different skills that their own players have. Like Wendell Carter Jr. can handle the ball a little bit. He can distribute the ball. He's a smart, heady player. Put him in those positions too. And if he's doing dribble handoffs and different stuff out up top, maybe he can step out and take another 3, help spread the floor for Zach LaVine to attack the rack. Maybe that helps spread the floor more so Markkanen gets a little bit more space so he can start shooting well instead of being the trash bag that he's been lately. So, there's just so much that is like obvious stuff. I think if there's one good thing to talk about from the Bulls from this game, okay, I have a question for you since I didn't watch this game. If you look at the minutes distribution from the Bulls, you would say to yourself, "Oh, this must have been a blowout," because they had 10 players play 18 or more minutes. What is that? That just shows me that the coach doesn't know what he's doing, or he doesn't know who to trust. And he's out there just rolling the dice with a bunch of different lineups and rotations, trying to find something that works, which is
Bulls. Are the Bulls one of the teams that play tomorrow night?
Oh, I guess you can ask me that question and I will try to find the answer quickly. The Bulls do not play on Tuesday night.
Okay. Cause I was going to say nobody played more than 28 minutes. So I figured maybe if they were playing again tomorrow night, that the idea was not getting anybody more than 30 minutes.
Man, even if, I mean, for a young team though, that would be another reason to criticize Boylan if he was trying to limit these guys like that, you know? Anyways, especially in what seems like it must have been kind of a winnable game considering it was just a 4-point contest going into the fourth. So, yeah. Anyways,
Dante DiVincenzo was awesome in this game. He had 13 points at half. He only ended up with 15, sadly, but he looked really good. Was by far the most confident I've seen him play since he's been in the NBA. 3 of 6 from 3. He might be something special, man. He to me looks like he might be the real future point guard of this version of this team.
So, what do you think about right now? We're seeing Dante DiVincenzo come in. It's his second year. He's playing. We saw in his first year that Budenholzer liked him right away. He started from the opening of last season. He had DiVincenzo in the rotation, but then DiVincenzo had some injury issues that limited him. And this Bucks team has so much depth on the wing with veterans or players who've been in the league for a little while or been on the Bucks for a while, like Sterling Brown, who are good. Pat Connaughton, who has his moments where he shines. Kyle Korver off the bench, come in and bang threes when needed. Grant Hill, like they have depth at the guard position. So it's very intriguing to see a guy like Dante DiVincenzo continue to excel, continue to claim a bigger role. Now, when Middleton gets back, do you think it's possible that they move Wes Matthews to the bench in order to have DiVincenzo there? Or do you think they just move DiVincenzo to the bench and then they hope that he can be more of a consistent option off the bench for them?
That's tough because Wes really hasn't played that well. Tonight he was okay. I mean, he played 17 minutes and was a plus 16, but really gave you nothing in terms of statistics, like almost nothing.
Yeah.
Um,
He literally put up 0 points on 0 shots in
Yeah.
17 minutes. Completely insane. 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal. Wow, I can't believe I didn't notice that before. 0 shots in 17 minutes. That's why I didn't notice that, because that's something that you just don't expect to see.
I think regardless of DiVincenzo goes back to, I guess, either the first man off the bench being the sixth man or staying as starting shooting guard, I don't care as long as his minutes stay up, in the 25 to 30 minute range. So I like him in either role as long as he has a consistent role, and that's been my issue with the Bucks, and they're going to be awesome. And as you said, they're an extremely deep team, but I do think that playing some of the younger players a little bit more would benefit this team now and in the long run. And look at what Sterling Brown did tonight. I mean, in 25 minutes, he was a plus 28, and he had 8 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and he's
He's a
2 of
solid guy.
4 from 3, and he's a really good defender. I think he's like, if you're taking size out of the equation, he's the guy I least want to mess with on this Bucks team, without a doubt.
Okay. Wait, you're talking about in a fight?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm
Okay.
certainly not. Well, yeah,
Well,
of course.
The Milwaukee police aren't afraid of him. But that's also because they're cheaters and they use tasers. Jerks.
Don't tase me, bro.
Don't tase me. Brooke Lopez, 5 blocks for the second straight game. How good is he?
He's so good. It's
Good
been a
answer.
wonderful fit, man. It's I mean, like you said, 5 blocks. Nobody can get anything inside the paint. He's and a big guy who hits his free throws too. He was 8 of 9 tonight. He's hitting. He's got to be. I think he's leading the team in upwards of 90% so far on the year.
And just again, I mean, everybody knows this, but how important is it for the Bucks to have a center who can stretch out, bang 3-pointers from I was gonna
Disneyland.
from Madison, Wisconsin, or wherever, because that just helps with Giannis being primarily an attacker and a someone who goes into the paint off the dribble. That just helps so much to clear out that space. If you had a plotting center standing down there, it would just make things a lot more congested for Giannis and a lot harder. So yeah, it definitely helps. Kind of final note from the Bulls for me, rookie Daniel Gafford, because Wendell Carter Jr. was in some early foul trouble, and because Luke Cornett is out with I believe he had nasal surgery, he's going to be out for like a little over a week at least. Daniel Gafford came in and was great, put up career high 21 points in 20 minutes, got 5 rebounds and assists, 2 blocks. Do you have much of an opinion on Gafford right now? I know a lot of people were kind of hyped about him in the summer.
Tonight he looked like young Blake Griffin. I mean, it was dunk after dunk after dunk. It seemed like in the first half, he was electrifying. He really was. He looked great tonight.
How many positions do you think he can play? Do you think he's just a center?
No, I don't think he's just a center. I think he can play. I think he can play power forward.
At least guard that position, or
yes, but I think it's so early for him. Like
did he show off any jump shot ability in this game?
No, it was all attacking the rim. It was 10 to 12. If I saw his shot chart, I would guess that everything was within 5 feet.
Okay.
Because it was just attacking the rim, really.
All right. Well, and I don't know if I really want to talk about this too much because I just think it's in the end it's going to be much ado about nothing. But everybody seems worried about Lauri Markkanen because he's been on such a poor stretch. But he also started the season with like 35 and 17 game. So who is he? Is he still the guy that he was last season? Is he now a complete dud and a wash? I don't think that's true. I just think that his shot's not going in. Everybody says he looks terrible. Yeah, everybody looks bad when their shot's not going in. They look like they're wasting their time out there on the court. So in the end, I think Markkanen just needs to, maybe they need to scheme better for him to get him better shots, or maybe he needs to simplify his game a little bit more. But I'm not so worried about it, to be completely honest. I just think he's struggling, and it'll fix itself. He can shoot the ball. I don't think he suddenly lost that ability.
Bad body language right now. I will say that. Bad body language. He looks defeated out there.
You know what? Then maybe get a coach who's actually not a confusing, seeming butthole. So, all right, let's go talk about some other teams.
All right, sounds good. Should we get into the Blazers Rockets?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had this pegged as the game of the night, and I was wrong.
Yeah, and I said on last night's podcast that I thought that the Rockets would beat the pulp out of the Blazers, and that happened, 132-108. Russell Westbrook was back after sitting out the previous game for rest on the second night of a back-to-back. Westbrook shot, poorly from the floor, as he does, 9 of 26, but he still got a triple-double, so that's very Westbrook, and he was good from the line. So, he did it, 28, 13, and 10, and then James Harden, unfortunately, because it was a blowout, we didn't get to see him score 40 points, only 36, and only play 33 minutes. I am a little bummed about that. I was like if this wasn't a blowout, then we probably would have seen, we almost absolutely would have seen Harden score another 40-point game, which would have been fun because I just desperately want him to score 40 points this season. It just would be a wonderful storyline to follow all year.
I agree with you. As much as I've given him a lot of grief over the last year or two, and I think he's very deserving of most of it, but I still am rooting for him to score 40 points a game on the season. Do you think that tonight's stats for Westbrook and Harden is going to be similar to what they're going to finish the season at in terms of averages? Like, can they do this on a nightly basis?
No, I think Harden's he's gonna be dominant all year as far as his scoring goes. I don't think that Westbrook's gonna be the triple double guy this year. He came out kind of hot earlier in the season, but as we've seen Clint Capella's minutes climb up recently, for whatever reason, to open the season, Clint Capella was getting limited minutes from Coach Mike D'Antoni, but lately it's been huge minutes, and I believe it's 4 straight games. Now, Capella just came back from a concussion. He missed the previous 2 games, but if you combine his game tonight and then his last 3 games, he had 20 rebounds in 4 straight games that he's played, which is just completely bonkers. So, and if he's pulling down 20 rebounds or just tons of rebounds like that and playing more minutes, that's probably going to lead to fewer rebounds for Westbrook, because part of the reason why Westbrook averaged so many rebounds on those Thunder teams is because when Billy Donovan came in and took over the head coaching job, they schemed a way to speed up their offense by saying, all right, we're going to have Steven Adams and everybody box out, and we're going to get our ball handler the rebound so that he can get out on the fast break quicker, because that does help you speed up your pace as a team. And that's one reason why we see Luka Doncic record as many rebounds as he does this season. That's what the Mavs have created. They've created that Russell Westbrook situation where they're all boxing out and then he's going in and getting the rebounds.
And my goodness, is it fun to watch.
It is.
At least on the Mavs side of things.
Something that I don't think I brought it up earlier when we were talking about Luka Doncic. I'll wait until we get to that game in a second. But other things to mention from this Houston Rockets Portland Trail Blazers game. Daniel House had missed the previous 3 games with a back contusion. He returned to action and was pretty great. Played 34 minutes, 11 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 3 3-pointers. Daniel House might see a little bit of a reduced role whenever Eric Gordon comes back from injury, but for the most part, looks like they've really found a good fit there with Daniel House and PJ Tucker being two defense first guys who can contribute on offense, even if it's inconsistently. And I mean, that's what you need around James Harden and Russell Westbrook. You need defense guys. And I didn't really love the prospects for the Rockets when I was imagining them with Eric Gordon starting at small forward all season. But the fact that Daniel House is in there, it just looks really good to see James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and then standing behind them as like enforcers, Clint Capella, Daniel House, and PJ Tucker.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's so weird to me. I don't think they can win the championship. Do you? Like, to really get down to it, to get down to brass tacks, as Better Call Saul would say.
I would like to see them try to find more depth for themselves. Like, I don't really believe in Ben McLemore being a net positive in the grand scheme of things. I don't think that too much is. Go ahead.
They're a buyout destination, though, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely. I would like to, in this game we saw Tyson Chandler get a rest and Isaiah Hartenstein step up and play pretty well in bench minutes at center. I would like to see that. Like, why not try to see what Hartenstein can become during this regular season? Give him some good run. Don't send him back to the G League. Don't play him. Don't play Tyson Chandler over him, for crying out loud. They waived Ryan Anderson to help clear out. Well, they weren't playing him, so that doesn't really clear out in anything. But at least they don't have another veteran option for D'Antoni to potentially waste minutes on. From the Trailblazers side of things, Nasir Little had a pretty nice game. Career high 11 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. But with Carmelo Anthony coming to join the team on Tuesday, we should see Little move back to the bench in a much smaller role, as Carmelo's expected to start at power forward for the Trailblazers. Damian Lillard struggled with his shot, but that's about it. Not really seeing too much more to talk about from this game. Scott Labissiere had a nice night, but it was a blowout, so he got some extra run that he's not usually going to see. Kent Bazemore, he was all right, but he also struggled with his shot. Not a big fan of Kent Bazemore. I don't like I felt bad saying that because I feel like I always say that whenever I talk about him. So again, good bloke, seems like a really cool dude, but I just don't really see the purpose of him on most NBA rosters.
Did you just bloke him?
Yeah. My buddy Josh says that a lot. I just think it's a good guy, good bloke. Good bloke sounds better. Bloke sounds better because it seems more genuine or earnest. Like you mean it, Oh yeah, he's a good guy. That's just a throwaway that you say about people so that you don't seem like a jerk. But a good bloke, it's like, hey, that's guy I'd like to have my friend. Have be my friend.
All right. So you want to hang out with Bazemore, but you don't want to watch him play basketball.
I'd love to play basketball with him. I just don't know that he should be playing in the NBA in a big role. Sorry, bud.
All right. You want to move on to the Texas?
Oh yeah, the rivalry game, Dallas Mavericks versus San Antonio Spurs. The Mavs pulled this one out 117-110, and we've already talked a lot about Luka Doncic to start the show, just to kind of mention some of the ways that he's so special. But I would bet that a lot. You mentioned earlier something about him passing the eye test, and it's hard not to agree with that from one perspective, but he plays such a methodical and deliberate game. It's historically great and amazing, but it is very methodical. It can come across slow, or it can come across like, I think I could, if someone who doesn't watch a lot of basketball watched Luka Doncic and they were like, I just don't like the way he plays, I would understand that, because it can seem a little bit boring, and also it is a bit dogged sometimes with the Dallas Mavericks. The fact that he is like the only guy touching the ball, it's like, okay,
love it.
Let's see what Luka's gonna do, but at least he's, in him being such a great facilitator, it's a little bit more fun than probably watching a James Harden, because
that was the comparison I was going to make, because I was going to say, does this make me a hypocrite? Because I really hated watching the Rockets all last season, and however, I love watching the Mavericks with Luka.
no, I don't think so at all. I mean, look, it's Luka does a lot of those LeBron passes and stuff like that. So as much as people want to say like Luka's like Harden, yeah, Luka's like Harden because Luka does a lot of those step back threes and whatnot. But he's also a lot like LeBron in the way that he passes the ball. So, which is just silly as all get out that we're comparing this second year player.
Company that it is unreal. It's unreal. But when they play, man, I mean, it's hard not to click on the Mavs games.
Oh yeah, yep. And Luka, the 42 points that he scored was a career high as well. Dorian Finney-Smith had an amazing game. He was great on defense. You know, always a good energy guy. Doesn't necessarily always put up consistent production as far as what we see in the box score, but he always seems to make an impact. And he scored a career high 22 points here on 3 for 4 shooting from 3-point land and 8 of 10 from the field overall. So really great game.
Defensively, he really sealed the deal for them.
Yep. Dwight Powell got into some foul trouble, and that limited him a little bit, and that allowed us to see Maxi Kleber a little bit more. But that's about it from the Dallas Mavericks side of things. The Spurs, man, they were down pretty big at some points of this game, and they were able to, the first quarter 36-22 in Dallas's favor. So the Spurs come out struggling, 14 down after the first quarter. They ended up rallying back a couple of times to make it a game down the stretch, but just couldn't find consistency, and there was a lot of dumb mistakes from the spurts. I've been calling them the spurts in my writing a lot lately. What do you think about that?
Is that like past tense of spurts?
No, it's like, they're spurts. They're playing in spurts. They're having success in spurts.
Okay.
Yeah, it's to say like they're stuttering a lot. They can't find consistency. But DeRozan scored a season high 36 points. That's a positive. He looked really good. Derek White struggled. There was back-to-back possessions where Derek White fell. Like it was, you could argue he was flopping, but like he just fell.
Can I ask you a question about him?
No. Yes, of course. Hairline or whatever
I don't think I've ever seen another human that looks anything like him.
You might be onto something. Just a rough game from him. The out of the 2 times that he fell, one time it was an inbound pass and Luka bumped into him and they like banged knees. Derek White fell down. LaMarcus Aldridge was about to get a 5-second call passing the ball in from out of bounds. And he just threw the ball to Derek White on the floor. So Derek White's on the floor. LaMarcus Aldridge says, I'm going to pass the ball into that guy. Derek White's like, dude, I'm on the floor. He throws the ball back to LaMarcus Aldridge, and Aldridge jumps on the floor to get it. It was a mess. And the Mavs ended up scoring on it. Then in the next, literally like the next play, Derek White's guarding Luka Doncic up above the 3-point line, and a pick came, but it didn't even touch. Like nothing happened with Derek White. He just fell, and Luka Doncic just ran to the hoop. It was completely bizarre. Beyond all those little things, it was funny that LaMarcus Aldridge made it such a bad pass in on a potential 5-second call, because later in the game, right near the end of it, the Spurs had they actually did have a 5-second call trying to pass the ball in. And it's just like, dude, the spurts. So one of the more frustrating things about this game is the fact that, as I was complaining so much about the insane Greg Popovich, and the reason why I'm calling him insane right now to start the season is because he keeps running out the same starting lineup every night and he expects different results. And it's not happening. So Trey Lyles again started, but he only played 11 minutes this night. This was the second straight game, though, that Popovich did start Poeltl in the second half. And Poeltl had a nice game, 9 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. Dude, come on, figure it out, Pop. You gotta throw different pitches, man. You can't just throw a fastball every single time, or with this lineup, a changeup, because it's going to get rocked. DeJounte Murray's he was back in action after sitting out the previous game for rest on the second night of a back-to-back. Not the best game from DeJounte Murray, but we're obviously expecting better from him going forward most of this season. I don't know. Anything else from this game that stands out to you?
Not really from a fantasy perspective, but I did find this to be the most entertaining game of the night.
You know this isn't a fantasy basketball podcast, though, right?
It's just a basketball podcast.
So you're saying we can talk about fantasy sometimes?
Yeah. Okay. What's your fantasy? Tell me about your fantasy, Kyle.
Oh, hey.
Do you have a Derek White fantasy?
I have lots of Derek White fantasies. I mean, probably my biggest one is just seeing him start in the same lineup with DeJounte Murray, though.
That is also my fantasy.
Okay. Yes.
I would like to see him or just consistent minutes. But that's why, if you do want to talk about fantasy, owning a Spurs player in fantasy basketball is a pain in the neck, and it frustrates me to no end.
Yeah, although I would recommend everybody go try to buy low on DeJounte Murray while he's having a bit of a flub, because he got off to such a hot start this season, and I'm sure his managers are looking around and going like, "Oh man, what? He's not as good as I thought he was." Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. And his minutes will go up as the season goes too. The Spurs are being dumb with him. He sat out a whole season recovering from an ACL injury. He doesn't need to rest. He doesn't need to be eased back in. You should have built up his health in the offseason. You should have gotten him into some other games in the offseason. I don't know. You should have found out a way to just make sure that he could handle big minutes before you got into the regular season and started losing games because you're too afraid to play him big minutes. Stupid. Unless they know something about his health that I don't know, obviously.
Which is likely.
I doubt it. People are dumb. I mean, sometimes. So I think if I'm just going to get mad about one more thing about this Spurs game, it's that Marco Bellinelli played 19 minutes and Lonnie Walker didn't play. What's the point? Give me a break, Pop. Figure it out. All right, let's move on to the next game. Is that okay?
Sounds good. Celtics and Suns. The Celtics win 99-85. You know, we talked a little bit yesterday about
Aaron Payne's revenge game.
That's right. Yeah. So how'd that work out?
Not too great for Aaron Baines. They lost, so that doesn't help. And this game felt like a blowout. It doesn't, 99-85, 14 points. It's not necessarily a big blowout in today's NBA, but this game felt like a blowout. The Celtics kind of were having their way with the Suns, but the Suns were playing without their starting point guard. Ricky Rubio, on Sunday, Coach Monty Williams was saying that on Sunday, Rubio was good. And then he came in on Monday and had some back spasms and wasn't able to play for Monday night. And they've got another game on Tuesday, 5 games total this week. The only team that has 5 games this week. And I think it might be the only team that has 5 games all season in a single week, which is kind of nice because we used to see that a lot more often back in the past.
For some reason, I thought the Hawks were about to be on a similar stretch, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was wrong.
I heard something on another podcast, and you know how those guys are. They never get anything right.
Yeah. Those
podcasters.
Yeah.
But from the Suns, I guess we'll continue to cover the losers right now. Dario Saric, 9 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 3-pointers. Pretty nice night from Dario Saric. He's another one of those guys where it's like, dude, just do more. Be more aggressive. Look for your shot more. Don't play so passive. It gets exhausting. Javon Carter. You just started my career with Dario Saric?
No, with a Suns power forward. So I'm basically taking the spot of Saric.
Wow. I mean, I don't know if I should be offended as a Saric. As much as I want to rip the guy right now, I'm a fan. I just wish that he would do more for himself,
You're not mad. You're just disappointed.
Exactly. Thank you. That's the way it should have been phrased. With Rubio out, Javon Carter got the spot start at point guard, played 24 minutes, only took 2 shots because that helps everybody. Clowns, man. He was plus 15. He was, wow, maybe Javon Carter's just that good at defense that that's how he impacts the game. Maybe okay, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong, Javon Carter. Don't take any shots, brother. Frank Kaminsky, your boy from Wisconsin, negative 25. Tyler Johnson, a negative 30.
Big ouch.
I don't know why they're not playing Michael Bridges more. I just think Monty Williams is like unaware of how much Michael Bridges' length can help them out on the court defensively. But, you know, you do you, Monty Williams. Not liking it. I don't like that at all. From the Boston Celtics side of things, Marcus Smart tweaked his ankle or sprained his ankle and had to get helped off the court. After the game, Coach Brad Stevens said that Smart's ankle wasn't really swelling up as much as you would think it might have, and they'll just have to wait and see how it responds the next morning. Not too much to take away from this Celtics side of things. 28 minutes for Daniel Tice as the starting center. Enes Kanter got just 5 minutes off the bench. If Enes Kanter can't get matchup minutes against Frank Kaminsky when Frank Kaminsky's the backup center for a team, I don't know what other matchups you'd be wanting to look for Enes Kanter. You want to go against those weak defenders who he can dominate. And I don't know. I love, as someone who predicted that Enes Kanter,
the good gosh darn name of Frank Kaminsky.
Well, yeah, whatever. I just think that Enes Kanter should probably. I mean, he's obviously making good money doing this and everything, so that's fine. And teams still want to pay him to be on their roster, but I just don't really look at Enes Kanter and say that's a guy that's going to be on a winning basketball team if he's playing big minutes. Now, and there you go. He only played 5 minutes in this game. So and we've already seen an Enes Kanter type player play under Brad Stevens before in Greg Monroe. And you know what? Greg Monroe didn't play. He got really limited minutes off the bench, and that's what we're probably going to see from Enes Kanter because Daniel Tice, he actually tries hard on defense. Even if he's not an enforcer defender, he will make the effort. He will be in the right spots. And Enes Kanter just is paper thin on defense in every respect. He can rebound. Cool, bro. Cool. Which is, I love rebounding. I used to daydream about watching Kevin Love rebounding highlights videos. And I used to piss me off. I'd be like, man, why can't I find a Kevin Love rebounding highlight video of all his rebounds from the season? Anyways.
That was pretty amazing when Kevin Love was with the Timberwolves.
Well, because back then we weren't seeing Andre Drummond in the league doing what he does. Right. Kevin Love was like the most prolific rebounder since Dennis Rodman. And now, obviously, we see Andre Drummond going out and putting up 20 rebound nights all the time, so it's not that big of a deal necessarily anymore.
Isn't that crazy what Drummond has done? He's made it. He's like normalized it. He is the best rebounder since Dennis Rodman.
Oh yeah. All right, let's. You want to move on to the next game? Got two more. Two more. We got Minnesota at Utah, 112 to 102. The Timberwolves were able to pull out a win over the mighty Jazz. This was the first home loss for the Jazz this season.
That's right. You and I talked a little bit about this one last night and how Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert was going to be one of the big matchups to watch for tonight. And you said, well, why don't they just put Karl Anthony Towns in the corner and have him shoot Gobert out of the game? And that wasn't too far off from what actually happened. Gobert didn't actually leave the game, but Karl Anthony Towns was just nailing three-pointers. And, man, he looks more confident than ever. I talked about last night the way not just his shooting looks, but just overall swagger and control on the outside with the ball in his hands. And you should see some of his little celebrations after the threes he was knocking down tonight, not just from the corner, but it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, no, Towns can bang from all over. And he was 7 of 15 from 3-point land, and those 7 3-pointers tied his career high in that regard. 29 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He didn't go to the free throw line once, which actually that's probably it's a good discernment on his part to say, hey, you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not even going to try to go into the post against Rudy Gobert. I'm just going to go do all this work out here. drag him out. And Gobert was negative. He played 36 minutes, had a good game statistics wise for the most part, but 5 fouls and a -10 in the plus minus. Yeah.
That's just execution right there on game plan. And then I think that's why Cat had such emphatic celebrations, because this was the plan going in, and he did his job to perfection almost.
Josh Okogie sat out the previous game with knee tendonitis, knee soreness. He was able to play in this game, 24 minutes off the bench, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 1 of 3 from three-point land, 4 or 5 from the arc. So a pretty nice game from Josh Okogie, but he was limping a little bit near the end of this game, and when they get Andrew Wiggins back, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see Okogie get another game, or maybe they even sit him for a couple of games to try to get this knee tendonitis all figured out. Rookie wingman Kellen Martin had a heck of a game, his best game of his young career. 14 points, 6 rebounds, 2 of 3 from deep, 6 of 7 from the field in 24 minutes off the bench. But again, Kellen Martin was playing just because Wiggins was out. And if this team is healthy, we'll probably see Kellen Martin get pushed back to the G League. Anything else from this game that you like? Do you want to talk about? Jake Layman, he left the game around, and I believe the second quarter with a sore foot. So hopefully that's not anything big for him or long term that's going to linger. Anytime you hear about a foot injury for somebody, though, you start to worry a little bit. Robert Covington has been getting low minutes a lot of the season, but the last couple games he's been getting a little bit more. He played 32 minutes here. If Layman has to miss time, that should help open up more certain or secure minutes for Robert Covington, hopefully playing over 30 per game. It's been a little bit bizarre. I don't know if they've limited Covington early to try to keep him healthy after he had issues last year, or if Coach Ryan Saunders simply likes Trevion Graham, Jake Layman, and some of the other guys that he has as options to limit Covington the way he's limited Covington. I think it's completely friggin' bizarre, though.
Let me propose something crazy here, or let me get your idea on it. Are the Timberwolves a potential destination for Kevin Love? Is there a return possibility there?
Oh, man. I don't know. When you start to lean into a Robert Covington as your starting power forward, I feel like I don't know if you're going back for a Kevin Love. Maybe. I'd have a hard time seeing it, but I do think it's an intriguing idea, especially if they're 8-6 right now. And I know I was talking earlier about them not really being somebody that I think is going to be a playoff team, but if they're looking like they can fight for a playoff spot, who knows? Gerson Rosas, a new front office right now, they might be looking to make a move. So that is very intriguing.
Yeah, if they hover around 500, I think they're going to be a major player at the deadline. I'm not exactly sure what they want to give up, but I think they're going to be one of the major names talked about.
I'm pretty sure this is. Yeah, I think this is Covington's last year on his deal. So if that's true, maybe they would look to flip him. But if he's on his last year of his deal, then he'd really only end up going to a team that's competing right now and needs him from that respect. So I don't know. You would think that the Timberwolves would want to move Jeff Teague, and I didn't mention him early, but he had a great game. 21 points, 11 assists. Yeah, if nothing else, the way that they've been using Jeff Teague in recent games and the fact that he's been playing well since he came back from his illness, this could lead to a Jeff Teague trade. I would certainly like to see that, just because I feel like with the offense that this Timberwolves team talked about utilizing in the preseason and under Gerson Rosas after he was hired, and he kind of mind melded with Ryan Saunders about what they were going to do. And the fact that they drafted Jarrett Culver and they have Josh Okogie, still Wiggins wasn't there this game too. I have a hard time seeing the purpose of Jeff Teague on this team as someone who isn't really known for being good at defense. And the fact that he takes the ball out of Karl Anthony Towns' hands or even how Andrew Wiggins' hands, I don't want that happening. And Jarrett Culver's a distributor, and he's a big guard that you can play at either, like probably play him at 3 or in today's game, maybe in 4 positions in a pinch against certain lineups. So I don't know if I'd want. I don't want Jeff Teague on this team much longer. If they can find a place to discard him, I think that'd be great. But I also don't know how many teams would be really pushing for a Jeff Teague to come help them win.
You know, a playoff contender who has their point guard go down, I think that Jeff Teague would be considered a suitable replacement for a playoff push.
If they had their if they had their point guard go down, but I don't know, man. It's you can look through all the teams, and even if you're like, well, what about the Orlando Magic? Well, Markelle Fultz is playing kind of good. I don't know if you want
to. That was the first team that came to my mind. It really was.
But do you really want to turn away from him?
No. Right now, if you're the Magic, you got to go with
for
Fultz.
Jeff Teague, not for Jeff Teague. No. If you were. Yeah, no, it would have to be something much more special. Maybe
the Jazz. That would be a team, I think, if Conley went down.
I don't know. They got Moutier off the bench. I am not a Moutier fan. They got Dante Exum off the bench. You can still play Donovan Mitchell there. Joe Ingles was essentially a point guard last year, playing at small forward, and they've brought him off the bench this year to try to be that backup point guard or backup facilitator, even though he hasn't really, with Moutier in there, it's kind of been a little bit wonky. I think the Detroit Pistons would be a team that if they decided they needed to get another point guard to bring in because they know they can't play Derrick Rose big minutes, maybe there. I would like to. I would say maybe the Lakers because I don't know who's better, Jeff Teague or Rajon Rondo.
Right now, Jeff Teague.
Tonight, yep. And I think in general, I would think Teague, but I don't know how many people would have that opinion. People love Rondo for whatever reason.
He has like the cachet in his name. That's why. When you win a championship or you're part of a team that is memorable, that's kind of what comes along with it. And he's a very unique player. We haven't really seen. He's sort of one of a kind. Like we haven't really seen another Rondo.
I think the Sacramento Kings. That's like the only other team that I think might trade for if Fox's rehab doesn't go good, coming back from that grade 3 ankle sprain that he's got right now, then maybe Jeff Teague becomes an option for the Kings because they've got Corey Joseph and Yogi Ferrell playing right now, and those two are so limited about what they can do when trying to consider them two-way players on the court. Like Corey Joseph plays hard on defense, but he doesn't do anything on offense, and he doesn't contribute anything that you see necessarily in a box score. And then on the opposite side of that thing, Yogi Ferrell can go out there and get tons of three-pointers if he's got the shots, but do you really want a small guy who can't really guard on defense being out there just doing offense? I don't think you want that as your starting point guard. So if Fox has to miss extended more time than what people are expecting, that would be an interesting spot for Teague to potentially go.
All right. Should we get on to the final game of the night?
Yes, sir.
All right. The Clippers beat the Thunder 90-88. I was watching this game and then had some issues with my league pass. So there was some controversy over a final call. Did you get to catch the end of this?
Yeah, I was kind of watching out of the corner of my eye when I was getting stuff done. Montrezl Harrell had a great game. 28 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block in 28 minutes off the bench. Just great work. And there was a couple possessions down the stretch where Harrell got buckets, and it was getting wild. And it definitely made me turn my head and be like, oh, hey, what's going on over there? But again, this was a game for the Clippers where Patrick Beverley came back after sitting out the last game, but we still had Kawhi Leonard out. Kawhi Leonard's out with he bumped knees a couple games back, has missed now the last 3 games for the Clippers, and it's apparently not just rest. So we'll see. I don't know. There's a big part of me that thinks that this is just Kawhi essentially saying, like, I don't need to play against Atlanta. I don't need to play against Oklahoma City Thunder. They're not good enough for me.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to buy into any of it, really. That's why last night I told you I think that this is planned. So,
but it's just weird because there was a point this weekend where Coach Doc Rivers said he expected to have both Paul George and Kawhi for this game on Monday. So I don't know, man. I hope that he's actually dealing with something, because otherwise it's just frustrating to have a guy who's just like, I'm only playing when I feel like I want to play. And
they're going to get rid of back-to-backs. This is what I see in the next 3 years.
Well, and you know what? From a perspective that we've both shared here already on the podcast, the idea that we're both kind of against back-to-backs in the grand scheme of things, or we acknowledge that there's the data, not to say that I parsed it myself, but the narratives that we've heard from teams and from training staffs is the idea that players are much more likely to get hurt on the second game of a back-to-back while on the road and all these kind of things. And I'm sure a lot of that just has to do with rest and playing 2 games back-to-back. Like, these guys are young. They're the most, they're the best athletes in the world. I think most, basketball players in general are, just because if you're taking into account how big these guys are.
Yeah, plus professional wrestlers. Those are the top 2.
Oh my God. We need to have that. We can have that conversation later.
Okay.
Because I don't disagree with you. The thing that, so watching wrestling with you and some of my other friends who, like, it's not something I'm going to turn on myself, but if I'm hanging out with some friends and we've got basketball on one TV and throw some wrestling on the other TV that you guys want to watch, or if I was ever invited to one of the parties that you guys would have for one of the wrestling events, I would still come away like I might talk crap, but I'm still enjoying it, and I'll express that. I'll be like watching certain wrestlers. It's amazing how talented, you're right, these guys are as athletes in regards to the amount of things that they do to their bodies and the positions they put themselves in, as far as doing flips and throwing each other and things like that, where you're just like, holy cow, how are they not destroying themselves every single night? And they probably are.
Right. Yeah, but I agree with you. We'll have that conversation another day.
To round out some of this conversation about the Clippers, we saw Terrence Mann get a second straight start. Even with Patrick Beverley back in the lineup, they just moved Lou Williams to the bench for this game. Last night, we talked about the fact that Terrence Mann won the game ball from their previous game. He wasn't too hot this one. Just 3 points, 3 rebounds in 21 minutes, 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 2 from three-point land, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He's a rookie. He's gonna have inconsistencies. He's still got the start, which for a second straight game, which I think is really neat to see, that there's a coach who either they really like Terrence Mann and they just want to see what he looks like in these different situations, in these different lineups, or maybe this was like a reward to say, like, hey, look, you played so great last game. We're just you get an extra opportunity to show if you can stick in some respects, especially as far as the rotation goes. Once Kawhi is healthy and back in the mix.
I don't think we've ever really seen anything like these Clippers, man. This is actually, it's sort of similar to the Nets, where you have 2 superstars added onto a playoff team already. I think the Clippers are quite a bit ahead of what the Nets were last year, but this is really something special we've never seen before, I don't think.
Well, and I think the fact that Ivica Zubac he's a really good traditional type big man who is still young and is still, they've got him signed to a nice contract too for the next several years. When you need to go big, the Clippers can actually go big. So that helps. And they went out and got some guys who can play the power forward position without question. In Jermichael Green, they don't really use Montrezl Harrell as a power forward, but I think there are a lot of situations where you could consider doing that. Like if for whatever reason the Clippers meet the Indiana Pacers in the finals, at least you know that if you need to match up with Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis, this Clippers, they've got that look too, or and not even them. I guess the best team to look at as far as a huge starting lineup in the front court might even, I don't know, I was just going to compare the Lakers starting front court to the Pacers, but in my opinion, the Pacers starting front court is no sugar plums. It's really, I guess it would come down to how obviously you want Anthony Davis over anybody else, but I think when you pair the two guys of Miles Turner, Domantas Sabonis versus Anthony Davis and JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard, I'd still want Anthony Davis, but at least it's a
if you're taking the duo.
Well, no, I don't know what I was just trying to talk myself into with all that. But I was more just thinking about the matchup situation. But I think while I was trying to talk about how interesting it is that some teams do have the ability to actually go big in today's NBA, and some teams don't even have that option on the roster, like the Nets, how important it is to have that versatility still, even though we are in the spread amount, small ball kind of league. But the thing is, the league went from this paradigm of saying, okay, we're headed toward a small ball league where we're going to have Draymond Green type guys at center. And I was like, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's do it. Spread it out. Playmakers everywhere, shooters everywhere, undersized guys who have the ability to protect the rim in some respect. Let's do it. I love it. But that's not the way it's gone. We've just seen the big men become more skilled. Like with Jokic essentially being the point guard for the Denver Nuggets, or the fact that Draymond Green is essentially the point guard at power forward for the Warriors, the fact that Blake Griffin is the point guard for the Pistons. It's just, from a functional facilitation standpoint, they still guard different players, but it's interesting to see that the way that versatility is so important in the NBA these days, and I think that extends to having enough big men on your roster too, to match up with certain teams. When you see, look, it's the thing about the NBA is, what amazes me is when you got GMs out there who don't take a proper accounting of where the league is and plan and build their team around that. So you got a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they don't have, they've just invested back-to-back top 10 picks in two undersized point guards. Like, that's just beyond stupid in today's NBA. It's one thing if you looked at Darius Garland this year and you were like, you know what, Colin Sexton's not going to cut it. We made a mistake last year. Cool. But then I don't know, man. It's just bizarre to me because by the time the Cavaliers actually find good enough, big enough wing players and front court players to pair with Garland and Sexton, they might not even be on the team. So it's just insane to me. Or by the time they get somebody and then they develop them, well, Garland might be on, you know what I'm saying? It's just poor planning.
All right. So any final notes on the Clippers and Thunder?
We didn't talk about the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was supposed to have a big revenge game in this one. Unfortunately, he got into foul trouble, played just 31 minutes, 11 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal, no assist. Still frustrating to see that this Thunder team and Coach Billy Donovan doesn't seem to understand that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a point guard and he should be handling the ball and setting guys up. But no, we're just going to turn him into a scorer. What are you doing?
All right.
Anyways.
Well, more on that in the coming days. Should we talk about what we got coming up tomorrow night?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So 4 games on the docket tomorrow. We got the Warriors at Grizzlies, the Blazers at the Pelicans, the Suns are in Sacramento, and the Thunder will be in LA again, this time against the Lakers, similar to what the Hawks did the last couple of nights.
Yep. Golden State at Memphis still got Kevon Looney out. Alan Smalagic is out still. Jacob Evans, Grayson. Those are all Warriors players, in case you didn't know. The Memphis Grizzlies still got Grayson Allen out. I guess, is there anything from this game that's intriguing to you? I always love it when we have crappy teams matching up together, because at least that's a hope of a good game. And with the Warriors, man, being so bad, we should see Ja Morant have a good game after he kind of struggled in their last one.
Career high for Ja in this game.
Whoa. How many do you think he's going to get?
Let's go with 33 points tomorrow night.
All right. Wow. All right. 33. I'll go 32.
Ooh, don't you prices right.
$1. All right. Not much else to think about from that game. Obviously, hopefully, Jaren Jackson stays out of foul trouble, as always. From Portland and at New Orleans, Pau Gasol remains out for the Trailblazers, but Carmelo Anthony might be making his debut with the team. You know what, though? The Blazers play on Thursday, and I'm pretty sure it's a TNT game because there's only 2 games that night.
Always wait. See, just like I said last week, it was planned to announce the news that he signed on Thursday, and his first game will be on Thursday.
Did you see the video from Carmelo that he posted to YouTube that Wojnarowski tweeted out?
From his workout with the NBA?
No, it was just like Melo explaining his mindset coming back to the NBA.
Okay.
Yeah, it was total ego, and I hated watching every second of it. And then to go look through the comments underneath the video was, I'm conflicted. There's a part of me that's like, why do people become such big fans of players that they make excuses to all ends for them? But then again, it's like, I kind of, as I've become less curmudgeon-y as I've gotten older, or less judgy as I've gotten older, I like the love that some people send out to other people. It's like, all right, fine. If you're going to stand for that guy and defend him no matter what, at least you're doing it from a loving standpoint in some respect. The New Orleans Pelicans have tons of players out. Questionable guys: Frank Jackson, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram. So hopefully some of those guys are able to return. Josh Hart's going to be out again. Derek Favors is going to be out again. So it's looking like, and Jahlil Okafor is doubtful. So it's looking like we're probably going to see another start from Jackson Hayes, which is going to be a lot of fun to get that rookie into some more big minutes. He's going to have a tough matchup against Hassan Whiteside, though. So hopefully that doesn't lead to any foul trouble or anything like that. What about you? Anything from this Portland and New Orleans game?
No, I think the Blazers are going to get... I think they're going to win this one. I expected them to win tonight too, but with all the injuries to the Pelicans, I think this is the Blazers' game.
Yep. I mean, with Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, and Frank Jackson possibly coming back, we probably won't see as many minutes from Nickeil Alexander-Walker, which is a little bit depressing for me, but I'll deal. Next game, the Phoenix Suns at Sacramento Kings. Ricky Rubio, as we mentioned earlier, is going to be questionable with back spasms. From the Kings side of things, Trevor Ariza is probable with his right groin issue, and Caleb Swanigan is probable with left ankle sprain, although he is doubtful to be in the rotation. If the Suns don't get Rubio back, I think it's going to be hard for them to win, but we'll see what happens. Anything from you on that one?
Nope. And the final game of the night is the Thunder at the Lakers.
So the Thunder plan on back-to-back. Hamidou Diallo is questionable with knee soreness. He sat out Monday's game. Andre Roberson will be out again. I don't know why they continue to mark him as like doubtful. Anthony Davis is listed as probable for the Lakers with his shoulder issue. Hopefully and he's been playing through it. He's struggled a little bit the last 2 games, but I say that, yeah, he had 5 blocks last night. So I'm not too worried about Anthony Davis. And if you play fantasy basketball, I'd be trying to buy low on that guy. Avery Bradley remains out with his leg contusion. So, yeah, I don't think there's really anything else to talk about. Did you have anything on the docket, brother? Or unless?
No.
What do you
What about does it?
What are you gonna do for the rest of the night? You got anything you're gonna watch on Disney Plus or anything like that?
We've now hit. It's been a full week of Disney Plus, and I think Wolverine and the X-Men so far has been the thing that I've continually watched and stayed up on. Because once I got it, I just keep going to different shows that I loved in the '90s, and I watch a couple episodes and Tailspin and Darkwing Duck and whatever it might be. But Wolverine and the X-Men from I think 2006. That's something that I have continually watched, and I'm working my way through the Star Wars movies as well. So,
oh, cool.
yes.
See,
What about you?
I hope they expand the Star Wars stuff to include like the when they revised them or updated them with certain things.
I want the originals.
Yeah,
and I want that holiday special cartoon from like 1979.
Give us it all, man. We want to see the crazy stuff. We want to see the mistakes because that's what we grew up with. It's like I don't want to see these CGI stuff added to these 1970s films. Get out of here with that, man.
Han shot first, man.
Yes, exactly.
That was almost the name of our podcast for everyone out there.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That was almost the name of our podcast.
Han shot first, yes. That would have made.
We decided to go with the basketball forum instead.
Yeah. We were just going to talk about duels between space pirates.
It's late. It's late where I am, and it's definitely late where you are.
It is, but I just want to keep you up. But you've got to work early tomorrow, so I guess we should probably say good night to everybody, or I guess good morning to people if they're listening to this in the morning. And I hope everybody has a great day.
Yes. Thanks for checking us out. I'm Anthony Denu. You can find me on Twitter at Anthony Denu, and we appreciate listening to Morning Hoops. Kyle, take us out.
I am Kyle McKeown. You can find me on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. If you'd like to buy me coffee tomorrow, you can Venmo me at Kyle McKeown 16. All right. I love you guys.
See you tomorrow.